Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mental Health Monday here on After Hours with KayZ. Every Monday, we explore the psychology behind relationships, emotions, and mental health in a way that's easy to understand. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for therapy, diagnosis, or medical advice. Today's question is one that many people have asked themselves at some point in their lives. Why don't they just leave? It's a question people ask about friends, family members, coworkers, and sometimes even themselves. From the outside, the answer often seems obvious. If someone is being mistreated, manipulated, or emotionally abused, why stay? But the reality is far more complicated. Leaving a toxic relationship isn't simply a logical decision. It's often an emotional, psychological, financial, and sometimes even physical struggle. Today, we're going to talk about 4 reasons why people remain in unhealthy relationships, even when they know something isn't right. Trauma bonds. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood concepts, trauma bonds. A trauma bond is a strong emotional attachment that develops through repeated cycles of mistreatment, followed by periods of kindness, affection, or remorse. Imagine someone who constantly criticizes you, ignores your feelings, or breaks your trust. Then, after an argument, they suddenly become loving again. They apologize, buy you gifts, promise they'll change, and remind you how much they love you. For a brief moment, everything feels wonderful. Then the cycle starts all over again. Over time, your brain begins to associate relief with the person who caused the pain in the first place. Instead of feeling safe because the relationship is healthy, you feel relief because the conflict has temporarily stopped. Many people mistake that emotional relief for love. That's one reason trauma bonds can become incredibly powerful. They aren't built on consistent trust and security. They're built on cycles of pain, followed by temporary comfort. Hope versus reality. Another reason people stay is hope. Not hope in who their partner is today, but hope in who they believe their partner could become. You might hear someone say, "They're not always like this. They've had a hard childhood. I know they can change. I've seen the good in them." Hope is not a bad thing. In healthy relationships, hope helps couples work through difficult seasons. The problem comes when hope begins replacing reality. Instead of evaluating the relationship based on consistent behavior, people begin making decisions based on potential. Potential can be beautiful, but potential is not the same thing as change. Real change requires accountability, consistent effort, and a willingness to take responsibility for harmful behaviors over time. Promises alone are not proof of change. Intermittent reinforcement. Now let's talk about something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. Imagine a slot machine. Most of the time, you lose, but every once in a while, you win. That unpredictability keeps many people pulling the lever because the next win might be right around the corner. Relationships can sometimes work the same way. If someone is loving every single day, you know what to expect. If someone is cruel every single day, it's easier to recognize the relationship as unhealthy. But when affection appears randomly, after arguments, periods of silence, or emotional distance, it can become surprisingly addictive. Those occasional moments of love feel incredibly rewarding because they're unpredictable. People begin chasing the version of their partner they fell in love with, hoping that if they just say the right thing, become more patient, or try a little harder, the good moments will return. Unfortunately, this pattern often keeps people trapped far longer than they ever imagined. Fear of starting over. Finally, there's fear. Leaving a relationship often means facing uncertainty. People worry about being alone. They worry about finances. They worry about their children. They worry they'll never find someone else. Sometimes they've spent years building a life together. Shared memories, shared routines, shared dreams, and shared responsibilities make walking away feel overwhelming. Even when someone knows a relationship is unhealthy, the unknown can feel scarier than the familiar. Our brains naturally prefer certainty, even when that certainty isn't good for us. That's one reason people sometimes stay in situations that no longer serve them. What healthy love looks like. Healthy love shouldn't leave you constantly wondering where you stand. Healthy relationships aren't perfect. Couples disagree. People make mistakes. But healthy relationships are built on consistency, respect, accountability, safety, trust, kindness. You shouldn't have to earn basic respect. You shouldn't have to walk on eggshells every day. And you shouldn't feel responsible for fixing another person's unwillingness to change. Final thoughts. If you recognize yourself in today's episode, I hope you hear this. Staying in a toxic relationship doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're unintelligent. And it certainly doesn't mean you deserve to be treated poorly. Human relationships are complicated. Love, hope, fear, loyalty, and trauma can all exist at the same time. Understanding the psychology behind these experiences isn't about assigning blame. It's about increasing awareness so that healthier choices become possible. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Mental Health Monday. If this episode helped you better understand yourself or someone you care about, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from hearing it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to leave toxic relationships? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next Monday for another conversation about the psychology behind everyday life.